So you're getting ready for your OP13 Carrying On His Will pre-release, excited to win yourself that promo Ace, Luffy, and Sabo. Or maybe, just maybe, this is your first pre-release or release event for the One Piece trading card game, and you don't really know where to start or what to expect, and you're trying to prepare for the event. Well, I have won over half of my sealed events in the One Piece trading card game, and every time a new set comes out, I come here to give you my guide on how to get through your pre-release event, and most importantly, how to win your pre-release event. This is my guide to the OP13 pre-release. If you want to win this, you'll play this. Now in this guide, we're going to be going over the following 4 things, and you can use YouTube's chapter system to jump to the section most relevant for you. Starting off with how a pre-release is played, the most optimal choices you can make before the event even starts, cards to look out for when building your deck and that can be played against you, and understanding the card pool and gameplay environment of this specific set. Now, quick disclaimer, everything in this guide is set up to inform you to make the best decisions to have the most powerful deck possible and to get you closer to winning your event. But as we always say here, if there's anything we recommend that you don't find fun because we're telling you not to play with cards you're interested in or to not explore game mechanics you find enjoyable, disregard that advice and use any of our other tips you can to have the best play experience possible doing what you're going to find fun. So how is a pre-release played? Well, each player will receive 6 packs and 1 2-card stamped promo pack. In this case, OP13, and the Carrying On His Will 3rd Anniversary Tournament pack. You'll open your packs, and using what you pull, you'll construct a 40-card deck. Now, your deck may contain cards of any color regardless of the color of your leader. Color and card type does still matter though to resolve card effects. For example, OP03 Buggy can still only search red events, and cards that require a subtype to either target or to search for, or for activation and cost, still require that card type. So Rebecca Leader from OP04 can still only search for Dressrosa types. And card effects in this set that require you only control Celestial Dragons still require you only have Celestial Dragons. If a Rainbow Luffy leader isn't being provided, you must bring your own leader, or play with a leader from the set that you pull from your packs. Now, if you're playing a sealed event after release and pre-release, you can bring your own leader from the set. Usually this rule is instated to make sure everyone's on an even playing field, since for most people, this will be their first time playing with the set, but for someone who went to multiple events already, they might have farmed a few leaders. You must also bring 10 Dawn cards for your Dawn deck. This is the thing I see most people forget. Please, please, please remember to do this. And if you know where you're going to be playing your pre-release at, I recommend you ask your local store how exactly they're going to run their event, because typically stores will modify their event just slightly to better accommodate their player base. And namely, this has to do with whether or not you can use Rainbow Luffy leaders or additional promos, like in this set, which has the 3 Brothers pack. Now, this pack comes with cards that are not part of the main set: Porcus D, Ace, Monkey D, Luffy, and Sabo, the Luffy from starter deck, the Ace from OP7, I want to say, or OP8, and Sabo from Odyssey OP09. This pack has your Rainbow Luffy leader in it, so you will need to open it to get to it, but typically these cards are not playable. They're part of your prizing for participating in the event, but I have known a few stores to use this prizing as part of the card pool. So again, just make sure as you're going into the event, you know what the rules are going to be there. Now, Rainbow Luffy leader is the leader you should be playing with at all of your pre-releases. It is a 5 life, 5k power leader that is all colors, all names, and all types. So anything that is typo locked, leader locked, or color locked should all be available to you. The other thing is that for cards that look for things of the same name or type and says you must control a card of it, not a character, this will also count. The biggest loophole for this was OP04's Kung Fu Dugan. Kung Fu Dugan gains blocker if you control another Kung Fu Dugan. It doesn't say another Kung Fu Dugan character, and since Luffy's name is all names, it counted as a Kung Fu Dugan. So think about any loopholes you can create with that, but typically, it really matters for things that are for specific leaders. Now you can target this one regardless of which one it's for. In case you're not playing your Luffy leaders, this is the tier list of viable leaders for a pre-release in terms of competitiveness. Sanji from PRB1 is far and away the best. It just gives things rush, and you already want to play vanilla bodies in this format, so you just play it, slam it, turn it sideways. Even against a skilled player, you'll just get high rolled by this leader so many times. It's far and away the best. Just use it. A tier, we have Red Zoro from OP01, Katakuri, Marco, Shanks from OP09, Green Zoro from OP12, and new from this set, the Red-Green Luffy, I think is probably a pretty good leader for pre-release. The fact you just get to convert Dawn into counter similar to Bonnie, although it's raw counter and helps you protect the combat on the character on board, must be pretty good objectively, but I think overall, if you're going to play this strategy, the Bonnie is just better and you should play her. But nonetheless, A tier. And B tier, and these really matter for your pool and specifically the set you're playing. Red Green Law, blue-green Sanji, yellow Enel, Perona, red Uta, and red-blue Vivi, which is really just Sanji but worse. But if you're in a weird place where they're like, no Rainbow Luffy leaders and no Sanji, the red-blue Vivi is good for countering the bunny if you want to go that route, so I keep it on here. Things to remember about sealed. Your opponent will typically have less 2Ks than in a normal match, so this means swinging for 6K is more effective at dealing damage and getting cards out of your opponent's hands than in constructed because they'll need 2 1Ks. Card advantage is also less accessible in this format, so playing searchers is more of a risk as decks aren't fully stacked, though there is an exception in this set, but your opponent will typically have less resources to leverage at any one time because of that. Triggers are also more likely in this format. Because of the lack of color restriction, any decent trigger typically makes the deck, so be aware of your non-yellow opponents having trigger, and we'll review how many relevant ones are in this set coming up. Power reduction is at a premium in this format, and you're more times than not fighting over board presence to win the game. So being able to reduce the power of your opponent's units to attack them is super valuable. Things you're almost always going to include in your deck are on-rate vanillas, cost 3 or greater. These are cards where the power on the card exceeds 2K the cost. For example, a 3-cost character with 5K power or a 6-cost character with 8K power. 2K counters are always a must. You need them defensively, blockers for the same reason. On that same note, we're going to play any events that give us 2K counter per 1 cost. So for example, if you have an event that pays 2 cost and it gives you 4K counter, that's a really good exchange rate and we're going to play that. 3 cost and 6K counter is good. And obviously sometimes you have cards that give counter and also interact with the board or give you card advantage. So we have to judge those based on the amount of tempo and advantage it's going to give us. Well-priced interaction is always a must in this format. And what I mean by that is like, we're not going to play a card that's 8 costs that only kills a 6 cost or less and doesn't produce a body, right? That's a really bad exchange rate. But if it KOs, power reduces, bottom decks, returns the hand, freezes or rests the card, and it's doing it for a well price or producing a body that's good along with that cost of Dawn, then we're going to play it. And like I said, anything that's trigger, as long as they're also good on board or also good for hand counter, will make our deck. Now in set OP13, we have the following card pool stats. 2K counters, rare or above, there are 3, and there are 18 under rare. Blockers, rare or above, there are 8, and there's only 6 under rare. So even though they're under rare, they're gonna be a little bit harder to pull. You'll definitely have some opponents that have a bunch, and some that have like none. Now for free play characters, these are characters that just come into play for free based on their own card effect. 99% of the times, these are trigger effects, like trigger, trash card, play this card, or just play this card. In this set, there are 2 that are rare or above, and one of them is SP, so there's really just like 1 rare or above, it's rare. And there's 0 under rare. There's actually 1, but it's absolutely not worth playing, so I put 0. Now, this one's really deceiving. Rush characters in the set, there are 7 that are rare or above, and 0 that are under rare, but there's only 3 in the actual set that are under secret. There's a rare and 2 SRs. The other cards are all secret and above, 1 secret, the other all SPs. So the chances of seeing a rush character are pretty infrequent, and when you do, it's probably just 1. But there are a slew of different ones that could exist in the pool, and we'll make sure to go over all of them. Removal cards, meaning it causes the character to leave board. There are 6 that are rare or above and 6 under rare. And again, a lot of secrets and SPs in that. Cards that rest cards on the board, there's 1 rare or above and 3 under rare. For cards that freeze other cards, there's 1 rare or above and 0 under rare. There are 0 paralyzers that are rare or above in this set and 1 under rare. There are 2 good triggers, rare or above, and 11 under rare, but a bunch of those 11 are just draw a card, so it's flexible. And then power reducers proactive, meaning you're reducing power on your turn so that you can swing into things or target it with power-based removal. There are 5 that are rare or above and 2 under rare. Now that we're done with the bulk of the guide, let's review some standout cards specifically for the sealed OP13 format. I'll have a full set review stream coming out on Tuesday where I'll be going through every single card in the set with you all live, but these are standout ones I want to make sure people are aware of going into their event. First is Porcus D Rouge. She's a 2K counter auto include, but she has trigger that gives up to one of your Porcus D Ace cards 3K power during this turn. That could be an actual Porcus D Ace card you have on the board, or of course your leader. So we're already playing it because of the 2K counter, but on the high end of the ceiling, a 3K buff for all the other attacks that turn is nutty, and you do need to be aware of this card existing because it will blow out your end of game combat math. Your opponent can't really control it, there's no life manipulation in the set, but still as a common, it's gonna be around. Magino is also really good because of the Rainbow Luffy format. It's a 1-0 2k counter, so we already play it for the 2k, but she has activate main. You may rest this character. Up to one of your Monkey D. Luffy cards gains 2k power during this turn. Now, there are a few Monkey D. Luffy cards we can actually target, or again, you can just target your leader. So for 1 Dawn, you give your leader a 2k buff, and it essentially blocks because you're gonna need to remove this card off the board, or else your opponent's generating 2 Dawn every single activation. Especially since this format is based on fighting cards on board, this is a huge power swing if left unchecked. And since we're typically not playing searchers, you're gonna have to swing with a real unit more times than not, or one of your small blockers, which opens it up to being killed by a small attacker. Now, Monkey D. Garp is the one exception to our searcher rule and basically every pre-release because he's almost 100% hit rate in this format and can be used with all of your Rainbow Luffy leaders. He on play if your leader is Sabo, Ace, or Luffy, which your leader is every name. You get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and reveal a cost 3 or higher card and add it to your hand. It's gonna be pretty hard to whiff that, especially since even if you're an aggressive pre-release deck, you're still playing a lot of 3 to 6 cost characters. You're not really going lower than a 2-4. And there's gonna be barely any 2-4s anyway. So you're gonna get this free search to sculpt your hand, and then of course, like every other searcher, he's gonna be able to attack with 3 Dawn on him to pressure cards from your opponent, get some extra individual attacks in. Also, great to counter that Makino, like we mentioned in the last slide. Also, great to counter the Makino. Meteor Fist is one of the best power reduction cards we've had in pre-release in a while. It's a 3-cost main event. It gives minus 5k during the turn. So minus 5k, since we're basically only playing 5k power characters for attackers or more, means that you are basically eliminating anything. Like if your opponent has a 10k power character, that means they've tapped at least 8 Dawn, which means you have at least 9 Dawn. So after tapping out 3 and putting it down to 5k power, you can still put 6 Dawn somewhere, including your leader that starts at base 5, to swing on that character and remove it. It's basically free removal. It's also at uncommon, and it also triggers the activate main, so minus 5k on your opponent's turn can completely invalidate an entire attack. On the same note, Gum Gum Gatling Gun is a crazy common. It's a 1-cost main event. You give a rested Dawn to your Luffy, which is at least your Rainbow Luffy leader, and then you give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2k, so you rest the 1, you recoup that 1 as plus 1 Dawn, similar to like the Rayleigh cards from OP12, except for it's attaching active. And then you create a 3 Dawn swing difference between your leader getting a Dawn and the minus 2k you're giving an opponent's character. And then for every additional attack, you're getting more value, right? So like if you put a 6k to 4, you make your leader 6, and then you swing on it and they block or they counter, the next swing you're making on it, because it continues to be reduced, is generating more Dawn value. Plus trigger minus 2k is always great, 2k counter. And again, this is common, so you're gonna see this everywhere. Now, this one's really deceitful, but Sunny-kun is actually super good for pre-release. So it's a 1/2 1k counter with activate main once per turn. You may rest one of your Dawn cards, so pay 1 Dawn. This character gains 2k power until the end of your opponent's next turn. Now, it's not good on curve because you still have to invest 2 Dawn just to make it attack a leader. It's a trap to like play it and start swinging with it. What you basically want to do is play it with extra Dawn whenever you have a spare Dawn at the end of one of your turns, or you're using it late to multiplay to basically tempo out the end of the game. Once you get to the point where it's about going wide and smack, take the cards out of your opponent's hand or avoid the blockers on board with multiple attacks, that's when you're going to play the Sunny-kun. But do not play this early and expect to lean on it. You can pre-play it early because you have the extra Dawn and it's in your hand, but most of the time you're going to wait till late game where you're going to like play a 7, play this after equipping 2 Dawn and swinging. You're not going to just lean on this as an early game aggressor, and he's common, so you're going to be able to get him pretty easily. Now, I don't usually review the SRs in this set because SRs are inherently powerful, so I shouldn't have to flag them. But there are 3 extremely swingy ones in this format, so I'm going to go over those. And first, we have Shanks. He's a 10-cost 12k power character with on-play set all your Dawn cards as active. Then you cannot play cards from your hand during this turn. We don't care about that because in this format where everyone's playing lower power decks, this is essentially a Time Walk plus 12k power character. So you're going to play this, untap, and you're basically taking a free turn, right? Usually you play your 12k, and you're tapped out, you can't boost anything, right? Your opponent just gets the 1k, 2k out of everything unless you have another big character on board, and then you pass. And that's the tempo of tapping out for a huge character. In pre-release, where you're not going to be able to 1-card remove this to get back in the game, your opponent is resolving a 12k power character, then equipping 10 Dawn around their entire board to smack into your board and your leader. It's like taking 2 turns in 1. So always just think about setting up turns where your opponent has the worst turn possible, even if they tap out for this, and then start equipping things, rather than playing removal effects or blockers. And that could be handling their board better on the turn before, or getting in for damage to put them lower, knowing that if they play a Shanks, they can't play a blocker. Trafalgar Law is literally getting played and constructed, and he's really good here, but I want to make sure everyone's aware in case you're not as tuned into the early meta games. He's a 6/6 with, if you have 1 or less life cards, this character gains blocker, and on play, you may return one of your characters to the owner's hand to play a character with a cost of 5 or less from your hand rested. So typically, again, we're only going to play like 3/5s and up, so you're going to upgrade your 3/5 after swinging in with it into a 5-drop vanilla, hopefully, so you're getting a 7k power rested, which means your opponent has a 2k gap between their leader and attacking it. And at your really best scenario, you had that Monkey D Garp in your attack, you upgraded a 1-drop Garp into this 5-drop. And you can play anything, it doesn't have to be a 5-drop, right? Like upgrading into a 6-power character from a 5, or a 7-power character is good. Even some blockers and some utility characters, if they have a good on play, or if you're like, hey, I probably block on this turn for tempo anyway now, so I might as well just get this attacker back in my hand, I can replay them later, might be fine. But at the top end, just being like, I played a 3-on-3, or I played a 4/6 on 4, and now on 6, I'm tapping out for the 6-drop, I'm returning the rest of the card in my hand, I'm upgrading the rest of the card to a higher power level that's hard to attack into, is going to do a lot of work. Plus, again, late game against blocker, which is going to make things a little bit more messy. Nico Rama is probably one of the best tempo cards in this pre-release format. She's a 7/7 1k counter with on play up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 8 or less cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So she has the 1 paralyze effect in here, and it's great. I mean, aside from that Shanks and an Edward Newgate and some SPs, there's not a lot of things above 8 cost, so this will take care of 99% of the relevant cards you'll run into while building you another 7k buy you swing. And this could be great because it means you could take a whole turn to swing at leader when you normally swing at board, because removing the card doesn't actually do anything because you're going to just say it can't attack or block. It can also stop something from blocking as well. Remember, it can't be rested at the end of your opponent's next phase. So if you want to chip damage in for damage or to get cards out of their hand and get around like a 5/6 blocker, for example, you can play this Robin, target the blocker cannot block because it can't be rested, and then just start going in. Speaking of the law from earlier, Beppo is the best target with it, but he's great to play regardless because he's a 5/7 common with end of turn set this character or up to one of your non-cards is active. So you get a 5/7 vanilla, which we already going to play in the deck regardless, but then your opponent basically cannot attack into it because it's going to untap itself every single time. And then again, best thing to play with the law because you played this rested, and then actually, you know what? It's not rested, it'll untap itself. Speaking of untapping itself, we also have this new Zoro, which is a super good meta card, but again, want to make sure people know in case they're not looking ahead. It's a 4/5 1k counter with on play if your leader has film or straw-like crew type, which your leader has all types. You set 2 cards as active. So it's essentially a 2-cost 5k power character, and at the end of the turn, you set as active, so again, you can't attack into him. Now, Izo is actually quite a good card in pre-release. They're a 6/6 1k counter with on-play draw 2 cards. So a 6/6 is big enough to swing on leader pretty effectively. It's also big enough where your opponent does have to respect it and attack back into it. So it not only plays itself on a lot of different curves. You can play it on your 6, you can play it on your 7, you can play it on a multiplay turn, you can play it on a turn where you equip and then have extra non to build a body. But let's just say you play it for straight value on curve, right? You tap out for 6, you draw 2 cards, so now you're up a card. Then you swing for 6. As a 6k power body, even though that's pretty easy to remove if your opponent's following up with a 7/9, for example, on vanilla, if they swing their 9 into it and you already drew 2 cards and you got at least a card out of their hand, if not damage or removing a character on board, that's enough tempo with this Izo where I'm pretty happy with that outcome. And the fact that it can just stick around and be better in a longer game too is pretty worth it. Edward Newgate is the other SR you have to be super aware of in this set. Again, he can single-handedly win a game just like Shanks. He's a 10/12 blocker, so the turn he comes down, he already interacts with the board by blocking on the opponent's turn, but he also has on-play draw 2 trash 1, so you're going to replace himself and sculpt your hand for better counter or interaction, and then you give your leader and up to 1 character 2 rested Dawn cards. So he virtually costs 6 Dawn for a 12k blocker that sculpts your hand. Actually insane. It's not as insane as the Shanks. It's a little bit better on a board with nothing. Like if you have no other characters and you play this is probably better than the Shanks because you at least give your leader a 7k swing for the turn while sculpting hand. But again, this is one of the cards that'll just come down this format, and because interaction isn't as good because power levels aren't insanely high across everyone's deck with everyone being able to select their best cards, it can just single-handedly win a game. This Vista is another tricky one you have to watch out for as a 6/8 with double attack. Now, normally this would just be fine, but he has once per turn, this character will be KO'd, so this is by card effect or by battle, or removed from the field by an opponent's card effect. You can trash a Whitebeard Pirates card from your hand instead. We have plenty of Whitebeard Pirates cards in this set, so a double attacker vanilla static character that we would already play just for the vanilla statting that can stop itself from being killed, not just by countering and blocking for it, but just once per turn, I'll just trash a card, whatever. Pretty scary. This Boa Marigold's kind of the opposite type of card. The Vista's always scary. This card has a high enough floor where we play it, but a really high ceiling in your deck composition. So she's a 5/4 blocker with 1k counter. So we're already going to play her just because she blocks. And for 1 Dawn, she also attacks. So that's worth it because we don't have a lot of blockers in this set. But she also has on play if your leader is Boa Hancock, play a Boa Hancock with cost 6 or less from your hand. Now your leader will be Boa Hancock because you're Luffy leader, because you're Rainbow Luffy leader, and if you happen to pull the rare 3/5 Boba, then you're going to be able to double play with a blocker, producing 2 attackers at the cost of 1 extra Dawn the next turn. And that Hancock is a pretty good one to commit to the board, because she has, if your leader is multicolored or Boa Hancock, draw 2 cards on KO. So you got to be careful about this one. Your opponent will definitely be able to produce blocker plus attacker for next turn while having a bunch of Dawn to equip in a turn. It's one of those things you usually can't do. Like for 5, producing block plus attack and being able to put 5 Dawn on things is a pretty good tempo swing. So just be aware that it is unlikely, but can happen. Okay, this is a card y'all need to know. It's the only card that gives unblockable in the set. It is, if I bound down the power, what's the point of living? It's a 1 cost flex counter. So it's one of these cycles we've been seeing a lot of recently where 1 drop for counter, your leader gets 3k power. That's the base. We already played that. But then it has you may rest one of your Dawn cards. If you have 1 or less life cards, your opponent cannot activate blocker when your leader attacks during this turn. This is the only card that gives unblockable in the set. So just remember that your opponent's leader can get unblockable and can attack for a max of 8 Dawn. However, due to the nature of a tournament where as you keep winning, you keep playing people who also won, and in pre-release where no matter how good of a player you are, your deck matters a lot more and the power of your pulls matter a lot more. The deeper you get into an event, the more likely you should act like your opponent has this card, because if they have this card, they've probably already sniped some wins with it. Next up is Rayleigh. Now, he's not one of the game changer, I'll win it on my back kind of SRs, but I had to highlight him because, like I said earlier, he's one of the only 3 rushers in the set under Secret and SP. He's an 8/9 with Rush, already super playable, but also on play. If you have any Dawn cards given, meaning you're on 9 Dawn or above, rest up to one of your opponent's characters, cost 5 or less, then add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active at the end of this turn. The last part, not as relevant in this deck, though. It can be. But you have an 8/9 rusher that can also rest something. Crazy. I mean, it'll win you games in terms of tempo. It's not a single hand brick house in the way that Newgate and Shanks is. But again, I wanted to make sure I highlighted all of the rushers that are in this set because I always go over all the secrets as well as any SPs that are relevant and limited because you're unlikely to see them. But in a tournament setting, if someone has them, they'll progress farther if they're good. But yeah, this guy, real scary. Scooper Gavin's actually probably one of the best Roger Pirates that isn't Rayleigh here in Limited. He's a 6/7 1k counter, and on play for leaders type is Roger Pirates. Draw 2 cards and trash 1, so it immediately replaces itself while sculpting some hand. And then you also ramp a card. You don't have to have any given Dawn, so if you play this on curve on 6, you just sculpt your hand and then go to 7, go to 9. By the same line, Douglas Bullet would be the second best Roger card in there that isn't Rayleigh. He's a 3/4 1k counter, and if you have 8 or more Dawn cards on your field, he gets 2k. So you pre-play him early, and then you probably don't turn him sideways for a bit, but virtually, he's a 3 cost, 6k power character. And on play for leaders type includes Roger Pirates, which your Rainbow Luffy will. You add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. So you play it on 3 and you go to 4, or you play it on 4 and you go to 5. Again, pretty good, especially because the early game in Limited, it can be relevant, but taking off to play utility cards and just blockers while swinging it with leader, you could totally win games. It's not a format typically where you have to play the 3/5, you have to play the 4/6, or you're out. You could take time off to do things like this, especially if it's going to give you ramp as well as a bigger body later. Neko here is one of the best 2k counters in the set. It's a 3/3 with 2k counter, and on play if you have 8 or more Dawn cards, KO an opponent's character with 3k base power or less. So usually we'll just remove a blocker for you, but we're already playing on this 2k alone. The 2k that can potentially remove a blocker for game, Pretty sweet. Obvious, but again, in case people aren't as aware of the set, Divine Departure is here. It's a new 0 cost event. So again, you can play it for 0. Trash a card from your hand and 3k counter with your leader or character as usual with the 0 cost events. But for main, you can rest 5 of your cards. And if you have any given Dawn, which means between the 5 you rest and the 1 given, you're paying 6 total. You can give minus 8k to a character for the turn as a main effect. And again, in limited, that's basically a removal card. This card will either do just normal things or will completely blow you out if you're not ready. So it's a 1 cost dual modal event. It's the version of the 1 cost dual modals where it's a 3k counter for your leader on counter, but the main lets you rest 3 more Dawn, and if you have any Dawn cards given, so it's a total of 5 cost, KO up to one of your opponent's character with 4k base power or less, and up to one of your opponent's character with 3k base power or less. Now, paying forward to remove like a blocker and get in there when it matters is already huge. But given that we want to play chump blockers in a limited format and we're going to play all the ones we have, you could potentially lose 2 of your chump blockers with this card, and the game just ends from there. You just fold. So do be aware this card exists. Usually when you're relying on 2 chump blockers to get through, you just don't have a better line anyway, because you know when you're taking that line, you're susceptible to them being interrupted with interaction, rather than taking a line that your opponent can't interrupt. But better to just know it exists now instead of getting blown out day of, not knowing and feel really bad about it. Now, we do have the Celestial Dragons in this set, specifically the 5 Elders, and there's 2 of the 5 Elders that are really, really good in limited. The first is Nosjuro, a 6/5 with 1k counter. If you have 7 or more cards in your trash, this character cannot be removed by your opponent's card effects, and he gains a Rush. So again, late game Rusher, pretty good. We don't have to play it on the 6 Dawn curve. So again, late game Rusher, really good, and we don't need to play him on the 6 Dawn curve, and this is one of our 3 Rushers that are under Secret and SP. But he also has when attacking, if you have 10 or more in your trash, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2k power during this turn. So having Rush plus Stable Dawn power reduction is pretty good. It makes up for the fact that he has a 6/5 body, because he basically swings for 6/7 on the first thing he attacks. 6/7. Mars is the other really good one for limited. They're all pretty playable, but these are like the best ones. He's a 6/5 1k counter, and if you have 7 or more cards in your trash, he can't be removed, and he gains blocker. And on play, you may trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 5 or less. This is also one of the few just hard removal pieces, and it's stapled onto a pretty good body, so we play this all day. Please, please, please know this card is playable in limited. It's just Radical Beam. It's Radical Beam at all times. It's a 1 Dawn 4k counter. Counter if your leader is Emu, up to one of your leader or characters gets 4k during this battle. Your leader is Rainbow Luffy, thus it is Emu. You will 4k counter. It also has main, rest 1 Dawn, additional, and your leader is Emu, KO, and the opponent's stage. If your opponents are playing the stages, you're probably already winning. Kozuki Hiyori is a huge, huge, huge tempo swing card. She's a 4/0 with 1k counter and blocker. With on KO, you may trash 1 card from your hand. If your leader is multicolored, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. So basically, she's a 4 Dawn gain 2, because you're going to be essentially saving a life on the block you do, and then you're going to gain a life from the on KO. And there is a few bottom deck cards in this format to be aware of, but they really only work specifically into this. They're not as good wide unless your opponent pulls a bunch of power reduction cards. So if you get like Pyre-Appled or any of those few bottom deck cards, it's going to feel bad. But every time you don't, you're going to gain 2 life. And yes, you do have to trash a card for the effect, but think of it more as trashing the worst card in your hand to dig for a better card into your hand through whatever card you're adding to life that will then go to your hand. Okay, Bonnie's the other card that kind of can break the format in terms of being an SR, as well as being one of the 3 rushers, which is one of the reasons we have to identify her. She's a 9/10 with on play if your leader's Egghead type, which it will be. This character gains a rush during this turn. Then your opponent adds 1 card from the top of their life cards to their hand. So just by playing her, you already remove a life. And then she swings for 10 on a 5 leader, which means you're getting a blocker or 3 cards or another life. It's that simple. And then she also has trigger if you have 1 or less life cards, rest to 7 or less. So yeah, this card is crazy and can single-handedly win games. Please be aware. Now, Stutzy is less a card I want to identify as being a really, really good card, though you probably play her most of the time you pull her, just off being a 7/7 blocker. But I think this card seems like it's better than it is in pre-release. Her on-play says if your leader has the Egghead type, which it will, play 1 character with a cost of 5 or less and a trigger from your hand. Now, knowing we have yellow and we can play all the colors, plus we have Egghead, which has a lot of triggers in it, you would think there is a lot of triggers to play off this. But in terms of cards that are worth playing off this, which are cards that either have blocker or can attack without being boosted, there's really only 3. One's an uncommon, one's a rare, and one is an SP. So it's kind of like the Boa combo I was talking about earlier, where you're gonna probably play this card regardless for the stat and being a blocker. The floor is just high enough for that, but the ceiling when your opponent does combo off with this is gonna feel really, really good. But typically, not to worry about. Vegapunk I'm highlighting here, it's a conditional blocker, which is normally really bad. The condition is if you have a total of 2 or more Given Dawn cards, this character gains blocker. That's actually really achievable in this format, the way that you actually play a pre-release. So I would recommend playing him because there's so few blockers anyway. I just want to remind you that if you have your 2 Given Dawn, I just want to remind you that if your Given Dawn is on a character, your opponent can always remove the character to reset the Dawn as non-given. So I'd recommend having the 2 Dawn on your leader at the very least to make sure it stays on the turns you absolutely are playing the block with him. We have S-Snake here. She is probably the best limited rare in the set, if not close to. I love this. This is one of my favorite limited cards we've had printed. She's a 4/5 1K counter with on play when attacking. You may turn 1 card from the top of your life cards face down. Give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2K power during this turn. So for 4, you minus something 2K and produce a 5K body. And then every other turn when you attack, as long as you have a fresh life on top of your life pile, you'll get to do another minus 2K. Plus, she is the free roll character we talked about earlier. She has trigger, you may trash 1 card from your hand, play this card. It will come down on your opponent's turn, activate the on play, let you turn a life face up, and then reduce a potential attacker during your opponent's turn by 2K. This card is super sweet, how flexible it is, and how powerful it can be. Know it exists, play it well. Paper Art After Image is a really important card to know because you're going to want to play it. It's common, there's going to be a bunch around, and it makes everyone's math going for lethal really messy. So the 2 cost counter, up to one of your leader or character cards gains 3K power during this battle. So it's a 2/3, which normally we're on the fence about playing, but then if your opponent has 2 or less life cards, up to one of your leader or character cards gains plus 1K during this turn. So this is what I mean about this card, right? It's a 2/4, but 1K persists. So let's just pretend your opponent's only going at leader. The first attack you can invalidate with straight 4K with this 1 card. Then your opponent's attacking into a 6K leader the rest of the turn, meaning they have to give more Dawn, give more power, and you need to give less counter. Additionally, if your opponent needs to go for a character, you can do cool splits with this, right? If your opponent goes for your character, you can 3K counter on it and then make your leader a 6K if the character is so big that they're not going to be able to tag into it with their other characters anyway, meaningfully. You can also do the opposite, right? If your opponent only has 2 attacks and you want them to attack leader with the second attack, you can 3K counter on the first leader attack, give a character plus 1K to make them disincentivized to attack into that character. There's just a lot of really weird splits, especially if you're going to go wide. This card's going to generate a lot of value countering. And Gungam Dawn Stamp is the best main set removal next to Mars. It's a 5-drop main event. You may turn 1 card from the top of your life cards face up to KO a 6 or less character. Notably, its base cost 6 or less, so no black reduction works. Finally, we're going to get into the secret rares and the SPs, and there are 3 secret rares in the set and a bunch of SPs that are relevant for limited, so please, please, please stick around. First is Luffy, a 6/7 with double attack and on play if your leader is multicolored, which it will be. Set up to 4 of your Dawn cards is active, and then you cannot play cost 5 or more cards during this turn. You can play 4 costs, which are great. You can play chump blockers, which are 3 or 2. Or you can just take that Dawn and throw it on your leader and smash. This card's crazy. Plus, it has double attack, so after fighting over the board, once it's time for that player to start going at the opponent's leader, it can make up ground quickly. Porgus the Ace is a 6/7. It's one of our rushers. If you have 3 or less life cards, this character gains rush. On play, give up to 1 rested Dawn to your leader, and then you may return one of your opponent's characters cost 5 or less to the owner's hand. If you do, they may play a character up to 4 or less from their hand. In Constructed, this card's probably just fine. In Limited, this card's pretty damn good. If you're not actively fighting over the board and you want to keep the thing rested to attack into, you're downgrading at best a 5/7 vanilla into a 4/6 vanilla. Granted, they could play something with on play ability that might mess up the turn. And even if they downgrade it into a blocker, it just removes an attack for the following turn, even if they're protecting themselves. So that seems like a good trade. And then there's Sabo, 6/7 blocker. Activate May once per turn. Up to one of your characters gains 2 costs till the end of your opponent's next turn. Then give a rested Dawn to your leader. So you're just basically just giving rested Dawn to your leader while being a 6/7 blocker. The cost bumping doesn't really do much here because the best cost-based interaction in this set does base cost anyway. So just a 6/7 blocker. He's probably the least exciting out of all 3 of these secrets in terms of a powerful pre-release card. All right, on to our SPs. We got a lot because we have a regular SP set, a wanted set, and of course the anniversary special national cards, which is Shanks in this set. Versus Lilith, 3-5. On play, look at top 5 and get an Egghead type card that isn't Lilith. We have a bunch of Egghead cards, so she can search it really easily. There's 2Ks, there's Vanillas, there's a bunch in this set to grab. She's also trigger if your leader is Vegapunk. Play this card, which your leader will be, so you can potentially just play a free 3-5 and get a search, which is nuts. She's also playable off the Stussy. She's the SP I mentioned. Yeah, surprisingly, this card's really good for limited. Sabo is probably the best SP for limited. I say that very loosely because there's so many different SP effects available, but this one's pretty damn good. It's the 8-9 on play trash a card, KO a 5 cost or less and a 3 cost or less. This card can single-handedly turn an entire game around or just close out a game on its own. There's Ben Beckman from OP09, which is the 7/7 1K counter on play, trash a 6K or less. So again, establishes the body, removes an opponent's body, pretty good. And another one of our rushers here, Monkey D. Luffy from OP09. 9-10, on play, Dawn -1 or more. You're just going to do 1 in limited. Draw a card, and then this character gains Rush. Pretty damn spicy. Smokers here, 5-7, Banish would activate main step to one of your Dawn cards as active. Then you cannot set Dawn cards as active using character effects during this turn. This card is innocuously good. I think what people need to understand is because you're usually fighting over board, you would assume Banish is worse in this format. Actually, I think what it does is that it makes it better because you can always chip this 5-7 at your opponent's leader and they essentially lose a card. If they counter, they have less cards to protect their board from your additional attacks. And if they don't counter, you slowly inch them towards the end game to a point where, oh, I don't have to care about your board. You're almost dead. If I just swing out, I'll win. And while doing that, because of Banish, you never increase their hand size. So that plus getting a Dawn back, I think actually makes this a really good limited card. Goldie Rogers here is part of the wanted set. The other 3 wanted cards are the Ace Sabo Luffy secret rare. This is the Roger not in the set, but the Roger from OP09, which is the one with Rush. And if your opponent activates blocker and either of you have 0 life cards, you win the game. Please remember this card exists. You can lose to it. Someone will lose to it. And of course, there is the anniversary SP, which is the silver and gold Shanks, which is the 10-12 from OP09, which has Rush and gives all characters on board -1K. And that is it for my pre-release guide, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section down below. And remember, we'll be going live Tuesday with a stream where we review all the cards in the set from the lens of limited. If you miss it live, you can go under the live stream tab on the channel and go find the archive. Good luck at your pre-release, and I'll see you on the next one.